So welcome everyone. I'd like to call this November 4th, 2021 Monroe County Board of Elections meeting to order. And I'll start by our first order of business is approval of the minutes of the October 7th, 2021 minutes of our meeting. And I guess, can I have a motion to approve?
Moved.
Second.
Okay. And then do we do a roll call or do we just?
Karen needs to do a roll call. Okay. You're on mute.
There we go.
Okay.
Chairperson Rana?
Yes.
And Clerk Brown?
Yes.
Board Member Turner?
Yes.
Motion approved 3-0.
Thank you. So we'll move now to our next item. So we have old business, and we'll start with the items on our agenda. And I understand Angie Purdy is here and has asked to make a statement as well. So Angie, I'm going to put you under Part E, voting space allocation, and you can go first. Okay.
Thank you.
So we'll start with Part A, outstanding fines and board actions, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Turner.
I'm sorry.
I have your name under this. So we have outstanding fines and board actions, and the first is
yes. Okay.
Regarding
yes. We have a case of one fine that has been carried month after month after month. We have been unable to locate the individual, and it is my motion that the election board vote to forward all information we have to the Secretary of State so that this person's if this person's name ever comes up as an applicant to become a candidate, that they will be reminded that they have an outstanding fine that must be paid before they can file that paperwork.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any discussion on that item?
I have nothing.
Okay, great. I guess, Hal, would you like to make a motion?
I move that we forward the person's name and all available information to the Secretary of State so that a record can be made in the database that this person has an outstanding fine and cannot file candidacy until that fine is paid.
I will second that motion.
Okay, thank you. Karen?
All right, Chairperson Rana?
Yes.
Clerk Brown?
Yes.
Board Member Turner?
Yes.
Motion approved 3-0.
Okay.
Thank you.
And that will take this off the agenda for future meetings.
Yeah.
It's really sad that it had to come to that. We're going to come up quicker than we realize on candidate filings. And so that's just really unfortunate that had to come up because, you know, making sure that you turn in your finance reports and other reports is incredibly important. And if you can't do that, why would you consider running for candidacy?
Yeah.
I wasn't, sorry, Hal, go ahead.
I volunteered to gather as much information as possible and combine that with what Election Supervisor Wheeler has so that we can forward that information forward. That was redundant. Anyway.
I wasn't quick enough to unmute myself when Shruti asked for any other comments. I don't know, the agenda shows that Ryan owes $200, but in the past, the board has actually had approved a fine of $400. So just to note that, whatever you decide to turn in. That was in
the last letter, which was unrecognized by the recipient. Okay. Very good.
whatever.
Thank you. You're correct. $400 it is.
Thank you. And I'll pause for longer after I.
I'm just not quick.
Well, thank you so much. Are we ready to move on to the next item? Okay, great. So item B, we have a potential voter fraud allegation and an update on the state police investigation from Karen Wheeler.
And that update is the same as before. I have no new information. So we're just on a hold here and waiting for either news from them or from the prosecutor's office.
Okay, thank you very much. And you have the next item as well, statewide voter list maintenance card mailing.
We are still getting cards back from the state, and they will continue to come for a little while. We are on top of it. We're pretty much, I mean, we're definitely caught up. And with anything that's going to be coming back, it still will probably be minimal, but we never know until we get it if there's any issues with that. But so we're doing really well, and we've updated everything that we have. Good job for voter reg.
Thank you so much for all of your work on that. It's nice to have a nice update. Great. So we'll move to the next item, which is the re-precincting review, and I will turn it back over to Mr. Howell.
I'm sorry, I could not hear the last thing you said.
Oh, sorry. Is my volume okay? Are you able to all hear me?
It's my ears, not your volume.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Could you repeat the last thing you said?
Yes, sorry about that. So the next item of business that we have is the re-precincting review, and I have your name next to that. So if you would like to provide an update.
Okay. In re-precincting, the committee appointed by the commissioners, which consists of 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats, of which I am one of the appointees, has reviewed all of the precinct irregularities, which have been identified either by us or by the state. And all of those precinct irregularities have been corrected, and the corrections are in a pamphlet which was presented to the commissioners yesterday for their approval. And once that approval is complete, they will forward that to the state, and that part of it will be done. This afternoon, actually at 2 o'clock, we're going to begin discussing the county commissioner and county council districts. So we consider the precincts to be completed. And Karen, do you agree with that? She's nodding her head yes. Okay, let the record indicate.
Yes.
Okay.
I agree. They did a great job.
Yeah.
The committee did a great job. Yeah.
And that pamphlet is available on the re-precincting webpage of the county website.
Okay, thank you. Well, great. Thank you so much, both for this update, but also for your service on the committee. I think it's much appreciated.
I'd like to echo that.
I think it's very important.
And is there, I guess I should have asked if there was any discussion about this or one of the previous items. I'm still learning how to do the chair role, so. And following in Mr. Howell's footsteps. Okay, thank you. So we'll move next to item E, which is the voting space allocation update. And I understand that we have Angie Purdy here on behalf of the commissioners. So I wanted to open up the floor to you. And thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to come at the last minute. The commissioners are unable to attend today, and so they asked that I share some information with you guys. So they have asked that I share that they are still waiting on the report from the election board regarding space needs. At previous meetings, this has been mentioned that this report was going to be forthcoming. He also wanted, excuse me, for clarification that they state they are not asking how you would allocate space at a specific location, but rather in that report, they want to know how much space you need to perform each function. They also ask that storage space specifically needs to be provided in cubic feet. They're also asking in the report that you explain how each additional 100 square feet of additional space that is requested at Election Central will alleviate the long lines that have been experienced at early voting. And then finally, for them, they ask that in the report that you, excuse me, also include best practices for security and vote processing and reference that specific documentation. And they also want to know how the space that is requested meets those practices that have been cited. That's all I have from them. I just want to throw one thing in for me. The doodle poll is out there for you guys so that they can have that work session again with you guys. Nicole, I think it was, Clerk Brown, sorry, advised me that I have November 11th on the doodle poll. That's a holiday. So please ignore that. I did catch that I had put Thanksgiving on there. So I did catch that one. Got that one off. So if you could, at your convenience, have a look at that doodle poll. And I just sent it to the election board and the Board of Commissioners, because I figure we as staff can always, we'll make ourselves attend for you. That's our role. So that's all I have. So, and thank you very much.
I was muted. I apologize for that, but I was saying thank you so much, both for coming here and for the update and the doodle poll as well. And I had a question as well. I guess, was there any questions or discussion? I should open it.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I had a question because I was confused because I got an email dated Tuesday from you, and it was to me and Greg Cohn. And I was both confused and sort of concerned about it. So I just wanted to read part of it into the record and just find out, where things were and kind of what was going on. So I have an email from you dated November 2nd, and it's responding to, I believe, what Greg Cohn is discussing as to viewing sites for election services. And what I was concerned about was there is, that it starts off with saying, I believe to Greg and not me, but I don't know, that now I've removed some of your niceness as they don't appreciate it. I've made some changes, so see below. And then it goes on to changes and things. And I was just both confused and concerned about it. So I just wanted to ask you about that.
Certainly, and that's an appropriate question. The reason the niceness was, Mr. Crown was reiterating statements that you guys already had heard from the Board of Commissioners about how they're looking at your request for additional space, and so it was actually taking kind of going backwards. And this was me. I had asked him for the first time to write this letter for you guys, and so I didn't want to put down what his attempts were. So I thought that that's how I phrased it. That's all it was.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Thank you so much. I just want to give everyone an opportunity. I don't want the public to think we're having discussions that aren't transparent, especially when we're talking about city employees. And I just want everything to be transparent and also as clear as possible, and so we minimize confusion. So I really appreciate your explanation as well as coming here to let us know where things were. So I would also like to move to the next item on the agenda is hearing, sorry, a question from Hal.
Yes. One more comment. The report that you're awaiting from the Board of Elections is the summary of what buildings we feel are required and what space would be allocated to those buildings? No?
No.
Okay.
The understanding is that, let me look at the commissioner's note to me. The understanding is that you guys were going to respond to the commissioner's request and to the commissioner's report about possible space. Okay, so yeah, about possible sites that they've made available to you guys. And they want to know what functions and how much space you need specifically for a function. They don't want you to look at a building and fill it, right? They want you to tell them how much space you need to do a function. And then if you want, then it might be appropriate for you to say, this is a function we believe could be done, say, in the Napa building, or this is a function that could be done in the showers building, or something of that nature. Okay. So that's what they're wanting. And they are also, they want to know the best practices, for security and vote processing. And as I said, they also want to know how the additional space in the election central is actually going to alleviate the long lines experienced in early voting.
Okay. Good.
Oh, sorry, additional discussion? I just wanted to make sure. Okay. Thank you. So I'll turn it over next to our Clerk Brown.
Thank you, Madam President. And might I add, that is certainly a phrase that I could very much get used to saying. I'd like to put the board in remembrance of the results that came out of the work group meeting between the Board of Commissioners and the Monroe County Election Board. The objective of the work group was to confirm the space allocations for use in the 2022 elections. As I've mentioned in previous meeting forums, the same people who were eligible to vote in the 2020 presidential elections are also eligible to vote in the 2022 county elections. This means that every Monroe County resident who is eligible and who can confirm that their voter registration is on file with the Monroe County Clerk prior to the state's deadline in early April can vote in Monroe County's 2022 elections. I had previously articulated my willingness to accept the commissioner's offer for use of both the former Napa building and the space on the second floor of the North Showers building in conjunction with what I had hoped would be a path to securing the entirety of the space in the Johnson Hardware building. That plan called for the use of the former Napa building space for the purpose of storing the voting equipment and related election items, as well as poll worker training sessions, with the caveat that the Cadillac of alarm and security systems be put in place, given that a bad actor would know exactly where to find Monroe County's voting equipment. The space on the second floor of the North Showers building would be used for the purpose of processing mailed ballots. I am appreciative of the commissioners authorizing the temporary use of these spaces for the county elections. However, it was only in real time on that work session that I realized the commissioners were only negotiating with me for the space in the Johnson Hardware building that has already been allocated to Election Central. In their presentation to the election board, I understood them to have said that the entirety of the availability of, said that the entirety of the building was not available at this time. The phrase "at this time" was used on 2 separate occasions during that presentation. On work sessions, I'd also understood them to use the term "if" with emphasis at the possibility of gaining the entirety of the first floor in the Johnson Hardware building. I believe that I had adequately articulated, at least to the best of my ability, what I was requesting in layman's terms. So to have the epiphanous moment of realizing that we were actually only negotiating with the commissioners for the space that we were already occupying was a bit disconcerting. The piece that resonated with the board and has since translated into action steps was their understanding that we can have a Dropbox receptacle for ballots that are returned after closing, provided that that Dropbox is under the complete control of the clerk. The commissioners presented as highly motivated to approve the purchase for a box that could be placed on the inside of one of the doors, and as previously indicated, action steps toward that effort have been taken since that work group. I am incredibly grateful for that offer, and it would certainly benefit us. However, without anything to indicate even the possibility of a path to expansion within the building, my takeaway was that the goalpost had moved yet again, and that the offer of the Dropbox was the 2.0 version of the locker and the padlock. My concern would be that we circle back to a conflation of gratitude and satisfaction. Since the work session, the commissioners have not responded to any questions posed on the weekly work session that would expound upon and supplement their presentation to the election board or what was discussed in the work group. Yesterday's work session was canceled, and as you are aware, we are trying to work to set up another work group. Prior to this coming to this meeting, I did submit 8 proposed meeting times for the next work group, but I sent an email to Ms. Purdy because my computer started spinning right as I hit as I clicked to send it, and so I'm not sure that it went through, but I did indeed choose 8 times between now and I stopped short of Thanksgiving. I apologize, but I'm not working Thanksgiving. In the interim, however, there has been a silver lining. Upon my recognition that my ability to articulate Election Central space needs in layman terms had not translated, I was actually able to get a complimentary consultation with an Indiana architect for an assessment of our election space needs. Recently, he spent the better part of an entire business day with us. We offered a brief and general tour of the facility. He took measurements of our existing layout and space, and I articulated our space needs to him. He was able to display a really cool computer-generated rendering of our space at Election Central. There was phenomenal software that allowed him to virtually take down the walls of the Johnson hardware space, allow us to position and reposition everything that we use within the space for election and voter registration purposes. We also discussed what we needed and for what purpose. He then put the walls back, so to speak. It was compelling, honest, and dare I say, an embarrassing assessment of just how much room we need. Before he left, as a layperson, I asked him to offer his professional opinion based upon his having spent the day with us and having what I felt was an amazing conceptualization and understanding of what we do and what we need. I asked him exactly how much space he thought we truly needed to do what we do. He pulled up the computer's calculator over the computer-generated rendering and inputted some numbers. His response, 12,768 feet. In the interest of full disclosure, I had never met this person prior to his coming to Election Central for the consultation. This person is not a Monroe County resident and has absolutely nothing vested in the outcome of the resolution of Election Central space needs. He has, however, experience in working with county government agencies throughout Indiana and was able to fully grasp the circumstances in which we currently find ourselves when it comes to our space constraints as it pertains to our election needs. I look forward to receiving the report summarizing his visit and making it available to the election board and the Board of Commissioners at the earliest possible opportunity. And I'd like to say, for the purpose of the meeting minutes, the commissioners have indeed requested a report. I'll put the board in remembrance that we tried to have an executive session, and what I hoped from that would be that we would get to discuss freely amongst ourselves our understanding of the commissioner's presentation back at the September meeting, and then work together on a bipartisan response. As you all know, I believe it was Mr. Howe that received communications that that did not meet the definition of an executive meeting. And so we have not been able to meet in a way, no offense to any press that are on the meeting, but that would allow us to have the kind of discussions where we could formulate a response that represented the perspective of the board. In my own time at work, I have tried to pull together a bipartisan piece of correspondence for your review, for the board's review. But again, that has been difficult with having that challenge of not being able to meet. So that is where we are as far as that. And I am open to questions. Sir?
If I could just add a comment. First of all, the context of the report that the non-county review is generating sounds like it will meet the requirements of what the commissioners requested.
I'm hopeful for that too, but I've not received it quite yet.
Right. Or at least be the basis of that report. And second, yes, that's quite correct. We did try to have an executive meeting to resolve this. And unfortunately, the legal opinion from the county lawyer was that we cannot have a legal executive session at all as a board of elections.
Can I step in here real quick on that?
Yes.
Thanks, because it's not that you cannot have an executive session. The law, because you are a public body of the government, is that you have to meet certain criteria in order to have an executive session. Because although we sometimes don't like airing our dirty laundry in public, and as Shruti said, that for the sake of all transparency, this meeting that you guys want to have, you have to have it publicly.
Yeah.
That's the purpose of this board. It's the purpose of being a public board.
I stand corrected.
Yeah, so just so you know, you can have an executive session, but it has to meet the criteria. And that information has been sent to, I think I sent it to you, but I know that our office sends it out to the boards and commissions on the public access law. And so as much as I understand, because we all understand what Nicole's saying, is that sometimes we'd much rather be able to just do this behind closed doors. We don't get to. So
we just want to get it done.
So so in order to do that, you're going to have to do it publicly. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify.
I as much as I love sausage, I will never watch a sausage being made.
I will join you in that. Yeah, and I just want to clarify that we also, of course, do want to have public meetings. It's but that there's requirements for how far in advance you have to announce them and all sorts of things, which has been difficult to plan with the shifting working session meetings. And so we need to have, we need to announce our meetings in enough time for public notice and all of that. So we're trying to work on scheduling concerns as well.
So just 48 hours is required for the public notice.
Mm-hmm. And we have to coordinate our busy schedules as well.
I stand corrected.
And then I wanted to add that at the commissioners, the county commissioners, October 20th and October 27th meetings, I had made a request at the working group that the commissioners clarify what their position was with respect to Clerk Brown's proposal to expand Election Central, which I have not gotten a response to and will hope to see at the working group meeting. And I had also asked that if the commissioners were proposing alternative plans for satellite locations, what the plans would be to seek bipartisan support, public input on, and expert opinion on the feasibility of these proposals, and how they would how the commissioners' proposal would affect access to the ballot for the people for the people of Monroe County who we know face multiple and different barriers to access. And my understanding from the October 27th meetings was that the commissioners would not respond to the second question or believe that they didn't need to respond to that. Okay, so I guess let me check if there's any discussion on the above items from anyone. Okay, so now I'd like to move on to agenda item 4, which is new business, and we start off with public comments. So I'd like to invite anyone here who is a member of the public. If you'd like to make a comment, you can use the raise hand function on your screen. And I believe last time we decided if anyone was having trouble with that, you could also type into the chat, and each person has 3 minutes for public comment. So I'll pause for a minute just to see if anyone would like to make a public comment. And as I said, we can do the raised hand function or type into the chat. And I'll give an extra moment for people like me who take time to type or find the raise hand function. That's always also difficult. Okay, so I don't see any requests for public comment. So with that, I'll move to our announcement of our next county election board meeting, which is December 2nd, 2021 at 1 p.m. And our understanding right now is that that will also be conducted via Zoom, and you'll see the agenda and Zoom link on our county election board website. So with that, I'd like to thank everyone for attending and for your time today, and move to adjourn the meeting.
Madam President, I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I will second that.
And Chairperson Rana,
Yes.
Clerk Brown,
Yes.
Board Member Turner.
Yes.
Motion approved, 3-0.
Thank you. Well, thank you again, and we will adjourn the meeting. And Mr. Howell, hopefully we got you to your next meeting in time, or enough time for that.
You did very well, Madam President.
Thank you very much.